Welcome to the interview where we talk to people that are doing wonderful things for the communities, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. My name is George Da, and today I have the privilege to be talking to Bayile Adeoti, who is the founder of Dechomai, and she's with us in the studio. Thank you very much, Bayile, for coming into the studio. How are you?
Thank you, George. I'm really well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Excellent. I think on Jambo Radio, we're quite keen to talk to people that are doing wonderful things, and we know that you are the founder of Dechomai. So tell us, what does Dechomai do?
Dechomai is a social enterprise, and our whole mission is to empower ethnic minority communities into setting up businesses, but also to provide them the ongoing support and raising awareness of support that's available in the ecosystem in the United Kingdom and beyond.
Okay, and it is. I mean, you say in United Kingdom and beyond. Does that mean the outlook for Dechomai is international businesses that you can support? Perhaps local entrepreneurs in Glasgow, for example, who can be looking at prospect of developing their services beyond the boundaries of the United Kingdom.
Yes, and we've had many people internationally contacting Dechomai to support them with their endeavours. Plus, we know that Glasgow is so multicultural, and we have many people from many different countries who are here to either study or to work, but they have ambitions to go and help develop their own countries, their birth countries, and that's where we've been working with people.
Okay, and I'm keen to know the meaning of Dechomai. Does that mean anything?
Yes, Dechomai is Greek. It means to receive, but the long version of it that we use is to receive people with open arms, open hearts, and open minds, and go above gracious hospitality.
Why the choice of Dechomai?
We originally started off as a hospitality social enterprise, so I was looking for a word in a different language that meant hospitality or had hospitality in it. And the first name that came to me is Xenia, which is the Greek for hospitality. And it was actually when I was in church the day after my birthday in 2018, my pastor spoke about two words for receiving. And the word Dechomai was the second word to receive, and it's to grab hold of something.
And that resonated with the concept of your business approach that you want to take.
Yes.
What would you say? I mean, how long has that been going for?
So we're 3.5 years old.
Yeah,
and as I said, we started off from seeing a need in the hospitality industry where lots of Black and ethnic minorities are working in the hospitality industry, but they're working front of house jobs or kitchen jobs. But there's also opportunities for Black and ethnic minorities to work in strategic operational roles, and that's where I was working, had the company car, and I had people saying to me, how did you get the company car? How did you get that role? And that's what I saw as an opportunity to create roles in areas like social media and marketing, and even just operations for other Black and ethnic minority women and youths to get those opportunities too, even if it was a paid work experience that they could put on their CV. And then when we turned one, people would ask, how are you so successful? What did you do to become so successful? And that's where I was like, okay, I could teach other people to set up a business. I am a product of Young Enterprise Academy. When I was at school in Glasgow, I took part in Young Enterprise, which is an organisation that provides opportunities for young people to set up a business and manage it for a school year. So I took part in that and I loved it. And I'm also a product of School for Social Entrepreneurs. So when I set up the social enterprise, I thought, I'm not going to be running a business that's going to fail. I need to know what it takes to run a social enterprise. And also at the same time, I decided to also participate in Social Enterprise Academy, developing social leaders program. So I did all these things, and I wanted to share with people, say, well, I've put these things in place. I've learned from so and such an organization. You can do it too. And that's where the ideas of our enterprise programs came in. So I conceived that idea in February 2020, and then when the pandemic happened, it was a perfect opportunity to launch them.
Is that the Dechomai?
The Dechomai enterprise courses, because it gave us an opportunity to teach people whilst they were in their homes. No one was going anywhere, so it meant that we could all learn how to set up a business. And I basically brought everybody that ever helped me to the table to teach others how to set up businesses.
Yeah, you said something really important there about when you were in school, how you were Young Enterprise Scotland came with things, and you were asked to do that in school so that you can run that for the school year, so you can set up a business around for the school year. Is that exposure to that opportunity that made you to think that you can be an entrepreneur, or what was it? You've always been an entrepreneur? Were you born an entrepreneur?
Some say that you're born an entrepreneur. I think it also takes exposure to things to make you see that passion in you. And I loved Young Enterprise Scotland. I loved what they did, but I just at the time didn't realise that I could do more. And it took obviously life experiences to make me realise that you can do more. And Young Enterprise is actually an international company, operates all over the world. And they still operate in schools. In primary schools, they teach financial education. Did you know that, parents? Your child can get financial education. And in secondary schools, they get taught about entrepreneurship as well as financial education. So there are opportunities that currently exist for everyone to grab a hold of, whatever age they are. And I'm now a Young Enterprise Alumni Board member. I promote their activities. Because I love what they do. I love the fact that they empower young people from the age of 6 to know about financial literacy. And it's that opportunity that's afforded to all of us. Their motto is enterprise for all.
Enterprise for all. So just talking back in terms of your experience, and to have developed such social enterprise that is successful and supporting other people to look at opportunities to set up themselves. I'm just wondering though, like in terms of the barriers that our challenges that especially people with business ideas that come from the community that we come from, the background that we have, being from the African and Caribbean background. What are the barriers?
So the Federation of Small Businesses notes that ethnic minorities are twice as ambitious as any other ethnicities in the whole of the UK to set up businesses, but also we are twice as likely to fail. And quite a lot of it comes from the lack of opportunities, lack of finance, the lack of knowledge of the support system and what exists in the ecosystem. It could be that there might not be financial resources to help you, but there are other resources. So whether it's support in kind, and that could be like through internships and other people coming in, that is the equivalent of finance to help you move your business forward. And also with many ethnic minorities, we tend to start our businesses up with our own money, or we might ask friends and families for loans, whilst with our other counterparts, they will go straight in to find investment, find loans, and that's how they start their businesses, and that's how they grow businesses. And obviously quite a lot of it could be cultural beliefs, and it could be not wanting to approach banks for that support, but there's also grants available. Many local councils offer startup grants that we can all access, that's available for us to start our businesses. If you're under 30, you've got things like Princess Trust grants that you could access, but quite a lot of things. And it could be mindset's a big thing, where somebody's failed or you failed at something and you don't want to start again. There's quite a lot of things that we need to overcome before even thinking about starting a business. But
So what would you say, I know you've mentioned about cultural understanding, perhaps, your involvement in all of this, engage in this sort of ecosystem of social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs as well. Do you find that less people of African and Caribbean heritage are engaged in the processes to understand this, or is it just because they're not exposed to the information? Which do you think it is? Is it just because they are not seeking for the information, or they are not or they're not given the opportunity to know the information?
I would say it's a bit of both. They're not seeking the information, they're not aware that there is support, but also lots of people think finance, you need to start a business, and obviously with projections and things, I started Dechomai with £250 grant from Jobs and Business Glasgow. That's what it can take the smallest grant to start your idea off, and then it's about you growing that idea. So yes, the concept.
On that £250 grant, when you started Dechomai, how is that in terms of turnover? How was that generated? How much did that generate?
That 250 I actually just used for feasibility study, for marketing, and just to prove the concept. And then I went on further to access a grant with Firstport, who support social entrepreneurs in Scotland. And Firstport are unique because we actually don't have that in other counties in the UK. So England doesn't have Firstport. So I accessed a £5,000 grant, and that supports you, the social entrepreneur, not your social enterprise, but you, the social entrepreneur, to start your business up. And it was from there, after proving the concept that there is a need for more work in hospitality for ethnic minorities to access in the operations, that's where the turnover started to grow. So from that 5,000, that turned over to 7,820.
Wonderful.
You always remember your first year of turnover, and then since then it's just 10 times.
It's okay. It's multiplied.
Yeah.
There's definitely opportunities depending on the idea and which sector you want to go into.
Yes.
I'm also thinking that given the fact that some of our people, members in the community, struggle with things like how to balance starting up a business and then just putting the bread and butter on the table, for the family. Is that not one of the things? I'm just trying to find out, when you got the £250 grant to start off Dechomai, did you have to keep working keep a full-time employment or part-time employment? What was your employment status at the time?
I was still working, and I guess for everybody, that's why entrepreneurship is for some and it's not for others. You might just actually want to support people as they're starting their business. You might have the passion for entrepreneurship, but to actually sacrifice a full-time wage is not for you because you've got responsibilities. But if you do want to go down the entrepreneurship route, something I would suggest is, keep your full-time job and then build your business up. There's other times that you can work in your business, night times, weekends, and that's what I was doing. And then I reduced my hours. So I focused 4 days a week on my full-time job, 1 day a week on my business, and I chose to keep weekends free, which is really important as an entrepreneur, to have that boundary, to know that it's not every single hour under the sun that you need to work. There's a time for you to rest and a time for you to work, and a time for you to grow. And then I reduced that to three days a week so I could study and do the courses that I mentioned before. And from then, that's when I actually decided that I needed to focus on this full time. And obviously I stopped working full time in October 2019, and then the pandemic happened in March 2020, and yes, I had no wage. But I didn't want to stop.
So when you stopped working in October 2019, as you said, and was that decision influenced by the fact that you've now studied a lot about entrepreneurship, which you think that you need to focus more on the growing your business, and was the business giving you any money to perhaps a supplement or to cover for some of the wages that you were missing from not working full time?
So the good thing about these programs is they're quite practical, and I love that because I learn by doing. So you need to implement everything. But what I also found was, because I was running a social enterprise, and the most important thing to remember is it's an enterprise, it's a business first with a social value, a social core to it. I was generating money, and the business was, it had clients and contracts that we had to fulfill and deliver. But in doing so too, I had to say, okay, I can't work full time. The good thing about it was, all I was saying was, I'm going to actually stop working full time for this company, but I'm actually going to outsource the work that I do to them. So I basically said, I'm not going to employ by you, but you're going to employ me as a contractor to work for you and to deliver this work. So that's what the flip side was. And at the time I chose to just keep reinvesting the money into the business and to help grow it, to show that there is a need for it and there is a need for that support.
I suppose it might have been a easy switch for you because you know the nature of the work that you do, but in some sectors it might not be as easy as that. You know, to just to ask your employer to contract you now as an outsourced service provider. You know, some of the challenges as an entrepreneur as well, it's some of the challenges that I also find, it may be something that we share in common, is the fact that we also find our members within our communities that they've been really hard beaten by the system, especially the immigration system, for so long that, you know, the ambition of creativity, you know, entrepreneurial spirit is gone. So all they're looking for now is to like work somewhere and earn some money. But they do have some very good ideas, but the ideas now are they need a bit more larger capital investment for that to happen. Is that something I mean, is that something that you've experienced in terms of being involved in this, that there are people with really wonderful ideas, but they just need a bit more capital, but they don't have access to that kind of capital because there are restrictions of anyhow, well, not restrictions, but there are also there are barriers of how much you can access, especially as a startup.
Yeah, we experience that. We get asked that all the time, and the first thing that I would say to someone like that is, fan the flame for the passion again. Don't just see it as an end to mean for you to start up the business, but you need to reignite the passion that you first had. And mindset is one of the things that we like to look at, the mindset of an entrepreneur, because it's that perseverance, it's that endurance that you need to keep going on and on and on and on. It's like an athlete, they just keep going on, and an entrepreneur is like, I say, a marathon runner. You just need to know you need to keep going. And then after that, there are different ways that you can access finance depending on what you're looking for. But I think the other thing you need to be mindful of, quite a lot of people expect grants. Yes, those grants come along with terms and conditions. They need to see that you've got a track record. One of the things is, which I recently got asked for, it was someone was looking to access a grant, but they wanted the grant paid in their personal account and they had no business account. And I said to them, you need a business account, and start that relationship, open up a business account and start a relationship with your bank manager or your relationship manager. So even if you're putting something in, whether it's £25 a week because you've sold a cake and somebody has paid £25 or £60, I know cakes tend to not go for 25, but let them see that you're doing something with your business. It's like any relationship. You wouldn't give somebody £10,000 that you didn't know, that you had no relationship with. Maybe if somebody could vouch for them, act as a guarantor, but with any relationship you need to build trust, and also don't base that trust on someone else's experience. So just because your friend said they were refused a loan from their bank, that's not you, that's not your situation. Start from now, start building a relationship and start building your business. Keep working full time until you're comfortable to say, I'm just going to run with this. Yeah,
it's always a balance of having to work, to look after the bills, and the day-to-day stuff, and also trying to grow a business. I mean, some of the experience of which you alluded on earlier on in this conversation, you talked about some people starting the business with their own money. Is that advisable, or what do you think? Do you think you should use, if you're a startup, is it better for you to look for a grant that can support your initiative rather than using your own money?
Personally, I think it's a bit of both. Like, I know I started with a bit of both. Others might choose to start with a grant, someone else's money, like, as I said, Jobs and Business Glasgow, or whichever council that you're in might offer you a startup grant, but you will need to invest something. You'll need to invest something, because at the end of the day, somebody might question you on your business. And I had that many a times with Dechomai, where I was questioned and I had to, excuse this term, but unless you can bet on yourself, unless you can believe on what you're creating, on the vision that you've got, then how do you expect others to invest in the thing that you're believing in and the thing that you're saying that you want to birth or you want to move forward with? So you need to invest into your business. And yes, you're investing your time, you're investing your money, and you're investing your resources, but you need to show that to others too.
So how is the from your experience, how is the investment ecosystem, like for especially, with all the indicators there that are showing some of the factors that are blocking or barriers that are challenging to especially businesses of or entrepreneurs of black and ethnic minority people? How's it sort of what would you advise or describe to a person with a startup idea how the investment terrain is?
There is investment available, and it depends what investment you're looking for. So there's social investment available if you're a social entrepreneur, and if you're in Scotland, it's favourable for you in that territory. When it comes the UK as a whole, when it comes to venture capitalism, so that's for different entities, it isn't as favourable. I think the figure is 0.02% of black females have been funded through venture capitalists, and I think it's about 2% for ethnic minority, for black entrepreneurs as a whole. So more men are being funded than women. But this is a time to break barriers. This is the year for International Women's Day. It was the year of breaking barriers, and I do believe nothing is impossible. We can't keep saying that it's not going to happen or it's never happened. You might as well try and make the change, try and be the change.
Try and be the change, which is very important. There is also a massive movement on in terms of encouraging sustainable businesses and also environmental friendly businesses, but I don't know, but you might find that a lot of my experience is this: it's so hard to get black owned businesses that are really focused on environmental sustainable issues, because most of us would have come from a background where we are rooted to our the continent of Africa, where there's a big push for industrialization to happen. Meanwhile, in the opposite direction in the West, it's like, no, we need to stop polluting the climate. We need to make sure the environment is safe. But because they've passed through the industrialization stage, what's your take on sustainable businesses and also environmental friendly businesses, and how can that work for a community that is embedded with such links to things that are happening with relatives elsewhere?
Well, I see that as a great opportunity, because just thinking about like countries, for example, I won't name which country, but I'm sure your viewers will know, your listeners will know, but a certain country in West Africa that experiences lots of power cuts, yet there's sunshine. So look into starting something with solar, that way you can start a solar business. But then there's other countries with lots of water, plenty water. Can you look into investing in hydro energy? And you can start a social enterprise here, or some sort of environmental business here, but that has links to your home country. So not only are you developing it here, but you're actually helping the development of your country. And yes, hearts will be in Africa and the Caribbean, but the resources are here. So why don't you start here and help the continent of Africa? Especially, like, you probably go and think, okay, maybe Glasgow looks a bit dirty, but then you go to another country, and you just think there's so much litter here. Why is it not like Glasgow? But look at initiatives that can help that country, that can take away the litter. And what can the litter be turned to? Because one man's junk is another man's treasure. So what treasure can you make out of that rubbish, out of that pollution, out of that dirty water? And I've seen some really innovative things that are happening. A friend of mine was in South Africa last month, and they posted it was old hangers and things, and old tires. Everything old had actually been turned into children's playground, and that's what they'd used, that junk and rubbish, but polished and washed, and it looked amazing, but it was all just recycled. I've heard about waste, so waste being used for energy, and that's like human waste, human feces being used for energy. So there's so much innovation, and you might see it as that's a silly idea, who would buy that? But there's so many people creating and innovating in different ways.
No, that's fine. Okay, we can forgive you for Bayile for your phone to ring in the course of the interview, but that's fine. These things happen. So okay. So I was gonna jump on asking you my next question. Basically, you are you basically participated and an alumni of the School for Social Entrepreneurs. So tell us about that. What's your experience on that, and what sort of how does that help your entrepreneurial aspirations?
So the School for Social Entrepreneurs program was a 9-month program that took place. We were face to face, and then when COVID happened, we went remote. And it was a great program that let you learn, but then put everything that you've learned back into your social enterprise. So and it was a month. You met every month, so it wasn't a week by week. So it meant that you were implementing things and learning things. And there was some things I used to sit there and think, I'm never going to implement that. How am I going to implement that? I remember the last workshop we did was about corporate partnerships, and the woman was speaking about the corporate partnerships, and I thought, no, that was in March 2020, and I thought, no, I'm never going to need corporate partnerships. I mean, how can I partner with a corporate? What would they need? And in the October, 6 months later, we were speaking with our first corporate partner and looking to develop that relationship, which has been an amazing relationship over the past year. And then even I love the peer-to-peer support. So I see when you walk into a room, it's a room full of opportunity. But the girl I sat next to was starting a social enterprise, and she was saying that it was to help marginalised communities discover Scotland and the nature of Scotland and taking them out. And she was a qualified mountaineer and hill walker, and she'd worked in Australia, in Austria and in Italy, on the Alps, and even in Australia. And I thought, there's never going to be any opportunity for you and me to collaborate. I just can't see it. Yet Rachel and I have collaborated more than all the other social entrepreneurs in the room together, because I use Rachel's social enterprise to help take our participants out into the outdoors, because we believe that entrepreneurs overcome mental barriers, emotional barriers, and then the hill walk or the mountain climb is overcoming your final barrier of a physical barrier.
There is a massive growing entrepreneur ecosystem of people of African and Caribbean heritage here in Scotland. So how do you see that? What's the prospect in terms of basically bringing something to the economy and making money? And do you think there's something there for everyone, or is it just better that an initiative to be pushed forward with these collectives of talented, very creative, talented people that are professionals have different professional background, can contribute to kind of push a kind of a black-run business and to success?
I'm going to answer that in two ways for you, George. First of all, if you do aspire for social entrepreneurship, we are excited to say that we have launched our Black Social Entrepreneurs Programme in association with PwC and School for Social Entrepreneurs. The closing date for that is the 17th of June. And if you'd like to get more information, then there's Facebook Lives on Monday at 8 p.m. on the School for Social Entrepreneurs Scotland Facebook. But we've also got Zoom open days next week. So you've got those opportunities. But the second thing that I want to tell you guys is ethnic minority businesses contribute £25 billion to the UK economy every single year. But with the right support, with the right knowledge, it is been said, and this is from a recent report from Aston University that was sponsored by NatWest Bank, ethnic minority businesses would be able to contribute £100 billion to the UK economy. That number hasn't been quantified for Scotland, but for the UK economy, that's quadrupling the economy for more business owners being available in the ecosystem. So it's not just about being a professional working here, but it's actually about you setting up a business, employing people, and being able to invest back into the ecosystem. So there's opportunity, but it's also, I guess, being able to access that information, being able to know where you can get the grants, source of support. But there's so many also for learning experiences, there's accelerators that provide support, and there's everything that you want to do, whether it's a climate focus. If you say it's a high growth business, there are learning support systems available for you.
So just to kind of, we're coming up to a few minutes more to go. So I was just asking, I mean, it's very interesting, the figures that you pointed out, the £25 billion yearly to the UK economy that black-owned businesses contribute to the economy, and it has a potential to grow to £100 billion. I think my question would be like, do we... Are these all contributions coming from diverse sectors, or are they all coming from one sector? Because I know the heavy investment of black-owned businesses within the care, social work sector. But in terms of the social impact to the communities directly, perhaps not. In comparison with the money that is made to the economy, it's not the same, therefore what I mean by that is the money that the economy, the black-owned businesses generate for the economy in the UK is not the same investment that come back to the community. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think one thing I have to say, the figure was for ethnic minority businesses. They didn't quantify black-owned businesses.
Okay, yeah.
And that's a different report, but
is that not one of the issues where it's hard to tell what the contributions of black-owned businesses are in the economy when it's all jumbled up into one, say ethnic minorities, because it becomes a big issue. Don't you find that a bit confusing?
There are figures, and there's figures still to be released this year for black-owned businesses. The issue that is presented, which I have found, is in Scotland it's hard to quantify that figure, and especially when lots of businesses aren't registered. So we're taking registered businesses, whether they're registered self-employed, whether they're registered with Companies House, but then there are many businesses that don't operate, that can't be quantified, and that's where I guess the figures aren't reflecting the true reinvestment into the ecosystem, into the economy, on how much that could be quantified. But in an ideal situation, these figures would be available. There's census has been carried out, social enterprises carried out a social enterprise census to know how many social enterprises were in Scotland, in the UK, and the same for businesses, and that's where we get those figures. So yes, it's not a true reflection, George, and we've still got some work to do to quantify that data.
And perhaps I'll ask this last one. It will be, what do you think is best approach if you're a startup? Is it doing some research, finding out about what is available out there that you can access, or is it better for you to look at what you have in terms of financial investment that you can put to start up your startup idea, and from there you see where you can get help, because you talked about track records. Creating that track record is always very difficult for startup when they don't have any track record to attract any investment at all. It's better for you to just start building a track record so they can show that you already made some personal investment, and this is a track record of how your investment has perhaps grown, from how much you put in, and then it would attract other investment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think always doing a market feasibility study is always good, so that you can know who you're competing against. That's always something that investors will always ask you: who your competition? And you might say, we have no competition because we're doing this and nobody else is doing it, but somebody will be doing something similar, and that's what people want to hear, that you are aware of what else is happening, as well as being able to, yes, invest in whether it is £500 that you have saved to be able to start that business up, rather than waiting for other people to give you money. Start with what you've got, and that way the business can grow. But it also lets you see the track record that you can create, and then it means that when it comes to other investors and when you're looking for that bigger amount of capital, then people will be able to say, actually, we can give you that because we've seen the track record that you've got, or that you've noted, or the interest. So it could even be, we have done a survey, and out of 1,000 people, this is what they said. There is a need for our service, for our product, and this is the feedback that they gave us. So that could be the track record that they've got, and the fact that you've got that continual engagement from the people that you want to serve, and the need that you see needs met. That's enough of a track record, as well as your turnover being a track record for what you do. But I would say, yes, start a relationship with your bank manager. We are in a world and in a time where there's lots of digital accounts, and you can get support. You can get loans and things from those banks. But it's good to have a face-to-face relationship with someone too. And something also, I know I've mentioned loans, and investment does come with like a loan. It comes as that support, but it depends how you want to grow your business. If you just want to start a business up, then maybe you don't need a loan. Maybe you can just start with what you've got. But if you've got, most tech companies, most climate businesses, they do require things like loans. And I know quite a lot of us have that hesitation of, I don't want to take out a loan. I don't want to be a borrower of something. And it is also for you to just work that through with yourself, and to see where you want your business to go and what you want to do. And there are some grants, or you might get a private investor that says, I want to invest in your business for like Dragon's Den, for a percentage of your business, a percentage of your for return on investment, basically.
I think we've talked about access to grant, and the grant for startup especially, and how they can support that with some initiative. I mean, it could work for some initiative. Initiative it might not work, but there could be a brilliant idea that might not work because the level of grant that they can access. Cautiously, I know you speak about being careful. Do you think we are? People of perhaps businesses or people, entrepreneurs of Black heritage, or people of African and Caribbean heritage, they're skeptical of risk. They're worried about taking risk. Do you think? Do you find that, or is not something that you experience?
I don't think, when it comes to setting up business, and the fact that the Federation of Small Businesses notes we're as ambitious, we're twice as likely to set up a business, it shows that entrepreneurs are known as risk takers. So we're not scared about taking risks to start a business up. But maybe when it comes to taking out a loan, that risk of taking that money out is a bigger risk that we wouldn't want to do. So there's degrees of risk taking that you need to do as an entrepreneur.
There's different levels of risks that need to be taken. I see that. I mean, what would you say is lacking in Scotland specifically, for which entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage can take advantage of? We have restaurants, we have that, so many of them now. What would you what's your thinking about, what sort of services is missing that we can provide that service perhaps even better than existing services, or as a new service?
Okay, George, this is what I see as lacking. Scotland is very diverse. We have many young children in primary schools and secondary schools that are not taking advantage of things like Young Enterprise Scotland or Social Enterprise Academy. Parents probably don't even know that these things exist. So my heart and my plea to parents is, please engage with your schools, the schools that your children go to. Find out about the financial literacy classes that they can do. Find out about how they can set up a social enterprise for a year or for a term, and how they can generate income. But in doing so, it also means that our Scottish universities will be filled of ethnic minority black entrepreneurs who are born here or who've moved here, not just entrepreneurs who've come from other countries. And that's what we're seeing. The trend is many of the entrepreneurs who go to primary school here, secondary school here, do not go on to the universities to study entrepreneurship or business or set up a business straight away. It might be years later that they'll do that. So let's bridge that gap. And I definitely think with the financial literacy from a very young age will definitely help. And in doing so, we're going to see many innovative businesses launching in Scotland quicker than ever has before.
Excellent. So financial literacy really is the key for the community to have that knowledge and skill, so that they can be able to perhaps put their ideas together and be able to create opportunities. So it's social enterprise where we should focus on in terms of community development, economic empowerment for people of African and Caribbean heritage in Scotland.
I love social enterprise. So just for those who don't know, a social enterprise is basically a business that reinvests its profits back into a social cause. But it also enables directors to take a wage, so it's different from a charity. And a social enterprise is just a term. So the legal structure could be a community interest company, also known as a KIC. It could be a company limited by guarantee or a company limited by shares. If you do want any more information about social entrepreneurship, then reach out to us. It's www.dechomai.co.uk.
Excellent. I think that's a very good plug in there, by the way. So, Bayile Adeoti, founder, Dechomai, and alumni, the School for Social Enterprise. You're also alumni of Young Enterprise Scotland. Wonderful to have had a chat, to have had the opportunity to have a chat with you and talk about what you do and the things that you are able to support other people to do. So it's very important. And can you just remind us of our website again, please?
It's www.dechomai, that's DECHOMAI.co.uk. And you can also find us on all social medias, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, on just @Dechomai Limited.